The hearing room smelled like old carpet and burnt coffee when my mother lifted her chin and said, "She chose her job over her child." My father sat beside her with his hands folded like he was praying, except he was staring straight at me, daring me to cry. On the table in front of the CPS worker was a printed complaint that said I had not picked up my daughter from daycare in weeks. My little girl's purple hair bow was still in my purse from that morning because I had dropped her off myself at 7:42. My name is Marissa Caldwell. I'm 33 years old, and when my mother said I had abandoned my daughter, I realized she wasn't confused. She was finishing something she had started months earlier. My daughter, Lila, was 4 then. She had a gap between her front teeth, a stuffed fox named Pancake, and a habit of whispering secrets into my sleeve when she got nervous. That morning, before the hearing, she had asked if Grandma was still mad at me. I told her adults had big feelings sometimes. That was the gentlest lie I had ever told. My parents, Dennis and Joanne Caldwell, had always treated my life like a community project they were allowed to manage. When I was little, it was what I wore, who I talked to, how loudly I laughed. When I became a mother, it became what Lila ate, which shoes she wore, whether I worked too much, whether my apartment was stable enough, whether I was too independent for my own good. But the complaint to CPS was different. It said Lila had been left at daycare repeatedly. It said staff had been unable to reach me. It said my parents had stepped in as emergency caregivers because I was unreliable. The cruel part was how believable they made it sound. My mother had always been good at sounding wounded in front of strangers. She wore a cream cardigan to the hearing, the one she saved for church events and hospital visits, and she kept touching a tissue to the corner of her eye even though I never saw a tear. "She works late," Mom said softly. "She doesn't answer calls. We've begged her to put Lila first." I looked at the CPS worker, a tired woman named Carla Mendez, and saw her pen pause. That pause cut deeper than the accusation, because for 4 years I had built my life around pickups, snacks, bedtime charts, pediatric appointments, tiny socks, daycare tuition, and the constant fear of being one emergency away from losing everything. I worked as an assistant manager at a dental office. Not glamorous, not powerful, just steady. I left at 5:15 every day unless someone was bleeding from the mouth, and even then, I called the daycare before I called anyone else. My parents knew that. They knew because they had complained about it for years. "You're always rushing off," my father would say at Sunday dinner when I stood up to get Lila home for bath time. "You act like nobody else ever raised a child," my mother would add, sliding another scoop of potatoes onto my younger sister's plate. My sister, Valerie Trent, never got those comments. Valerie could drop her son off with my parents for a weekend and call it self-care. I asked them once to watch Lila for 2 hours during a root canal emergency, and my mother told 3 relatives I was overwhelmed. In the hearing room, Valerie sat behind them with her sunglasses on top of her head, scrolling her phone like this was boring. Then my mother said the sentence she must have practiced. "Lila cries when she has to go back with Marissa." The room went quiet. I felt my hands go cold under the table. Not because it was true, because 2 weeks earlier, Lila had cried, leaving my parents' house after my mother promised her a pink bedroom when Mommy finally let you stay where you belong. I opened my mouth, then closed it. My attorney, Lena Ortiz, touched my wrist once. Wait. That was the hardest instruction of my life, because sitting there silent while my mother described me as careless felt like being buried alive with my own child's drawings thrown on top of me. Then the door opened. The daycare director, Paula Whitaker, stepped inside holding a blue folder so full the clasp had snapped. Behind the clear plastic cover, I could see printed security stills, sign-in sheets, and a yellow sticky note with my daughter's name written in black marker. My mother's tissue froze halfway to her face. Paula didn't sit down right away. She looked at the CPS worker, then at the hearing officer. "I'm sorry I'm late," she said. "But before anyone makes a decision about Lila Caldwell, you need to see who actually picked her up." The hearing officer, Mr. Voss, adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Whitaker, were you subpoenaed?" Paula set the blue folder on the table with a heavy slap. "No," she said. "I came because one of my teachers showed me the complaint this morning, and half of it is impossible." My mother recovered first. "Paula, I'm sure you mean well, but you don't know what happens after daycare." Paula looked at her. "Mrs. Caldwell, I know what happens at daycare. That's what you lied about." My father's face reddened. "Watch your tone." Lena stood before I could. "Let her speak." Carla Mendez leaned forward. "Ms. Whitaker, do you have records?" "I do." Paula opened the folder. "Our center uses digital check-in and check-out. Parent PIN, timestamp, staff verification, and camera still at the front desk. For the last 9 weeks, Marissa checked Lila in or out 43 times. My mother gave a small laugh. "That doesn't mean—" "It means," Paula cut in, "that the statement claiming Lila was left repeatedly without pickup is false." She slid the first stack across the table. I saw my own tired face in the printed stills, ponytail crooked, work blouse wrinkled, Lila on my hip or holding my hand. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, again and again, 7:38 a.m., 5:27 p.m., 7:44 a.m., 5:18 p.m. My whole life reduced to timestamps, and somehow those numbers felt holy. Carla flipped through them slowly. "These show Miss Caldwell present." "Yes," Paula said. "And when Marissa couldn't make pickup because of a documented emergency, she called ahead, and Lila's authorized alternate picked her up." My stomach tightened, because I knew what came next. Paula pulled out a single sheet in a plastic sleeve. "There is one note I believe CPS should read closely." My mother's eyes darted to it. The first crack. Lena took the page, scanned it, and her expression sharpened. "Your Honor, this appears to be a signed request from Mrs. Joanne Caldwell, asking that all late pickup notices be sent directly to her instead of Miss Caldwell." "That's not what it was," Mom snapped. Paula turned to Carla. "It was submitted 3 months ago. Mrs. Caldwell said the Marissa's phone was unreliable and that she was helping coordinate pickups. My front desk assistant accepted it because Mrs. Caldwell was listed as an emergency contact at the time." I stared at my mother. 3 months ago was when the weirdness began. The missed daycare emails, the voicemail from Paula I never got, my mother casually mentioning things she shouldn't have known, like Lila's snack schedule changing or a staff training day. I had blamed the app. I had blamed myself. My father leaned forward. "This is being twisted. We were trying to help." "No," Paula said, quieter now. "You came in twice at closing and told my staff Marissa was unreachable. Both times, she had already called us." Carla stopped flipping pages. My mother whispered, "That is not true." Paula reached into the folder and removed the last printout. "It's all logged," she said. "Calls, pickups, attempted pickups, and camera stills." Then she pointed to the bottom of the page. "Please read the last date out loud." Carla's lips moved silently before she spoke. "April 23rd, she said. The room seemed to tilt. April 23rd was the date my mother claimed I had vanished. The complaint said Lila was left crying in the lobby until my parents rescued her. Paula slid over the matching security still. There I was. April 23rd, 5:21 p.m., standing at the daycare desk in my navy work pants with Lila's backpack over one shoulder. Lila was mid-jump, arms up, because she always launched herself at me like I'd been gone for years instead of hours. Carla stared at the photo. Then Paula placed another still beside it. My mother, at 5:36 p.m., entering the daycare alone. Paula said, "Mrs. Caldwell arrived 15 minutes after Marissa had already left with Lila. She told our front desk Marissa had not come and demanded we release the child to her." My mother's face went pale under her powder. "That is not what happened." "It is on video," Paula said. Mr. Voss turned to my parents. Mrs. Caldwell, why would you report that the child had not been picked up? If she had already left with her mother? Mom pressed the tissue to her mouth. For once, no words came. My father jumped in. Joanne was worried. Marissa doesn't communicate. Maybe there was confusion. Lena's voice was calm and lethal. Confusion does not file a sworn complaint. Valerie finally looked up from her phone. I felt something inside me shift. Not relief exactly. Relief was too soft a word. This was the moment a locked door opened and showed everyone the person holding the key. Carla pulled the complaint back toward her. Ms. Whitaker, were there any occasions in the past 9 weeks where Lila was abandoned or left past closing because Ms. Caldwell failed to appear? No, Paula said. Never. Any staff report indicating neglect? No. Any concern regarding Ms. Caldwell's behavior? Paula looked at me and her eyes softened. Only that she apologizes too much when she's 3 minutes late. A strange sound rose in my throat. Almost a laugh, almost a sob. Mr. Voss made notes. Mrs. Caldwell, did you alter contact procedures at the daycare without Miss Caldwell's knowledge? My mother turned toward me then. Not apologetic, accusing. You never let us help, she said. You shut us out of our granddaughter's life. I blinked. So you called CPS? You forced us, she cried, and now the tears came, real or not. You think paying bills makes you a mother? Lila needs family. She needs a home with 2 grandparents who can be there. She has a home, I said. My voice surprised me. It didn't shake. She has a mother. My father pointed at me. You are selfish. You always have been. Lena stepped in front of me slightly. Mr. Caldwell, I'd advise you to stop speaking. But he didn't. She was going to sign temporary guardianship, he said, before she got stubborn. The room went quiet again. I slowly turned to him. What did you say? My mother squeezed his arm hard, but it was too late. Lena looked at me. Marissa. I swallowed. 2 months earlier, my parents had brought me papers after dinner. They said it was just in case for school pickups and medical decisions. Mom had cried about getting older. Dad said responsible parents planned ahead. I hadn't signed. I had taken the papers home. The next week, the daycare app started glitching. Lena asked, "Do you still have those documents?" "Yes," I whispered. "In my car." Carla closed the complaint file. "Then I think we need a recess," she said. "And I think CPS needs to see those papers immediately." Lena walked with me to the parking lot like she expected someone to tackle me before I reached my car. My hands shook so badly I dropped my keys twice. The papers were still in the glove compartment, folded inside the envelope my mother had labeled in her perfect cursive, for Lila's safety. I had kept them because some part of me knew. Back in the hearing room, Lena spread the pages out. Temporary guardianship, medical authority, educational decision-making, and tucked behind them a notarized statement I had never seen before. Lena read the first line, then went still. "Marissa, did you sign anything in front of a notary?" "No." My mother's chair scraped. "It was a draft," she said quickly. Lena held up the page. "This has a signature purporting to be Marissa Caldwell's." My blood went cold. The signature looked like mine if someone had practiced it from birthday cards. The loops were too careful, the M too tall. Mr. Voss leaned forward. "Mrs. Caldwell, where did this document come from?" Mom stared at the table. My father said, "We never filed it." "That was not the question," Carla said. Valerie stood suddenly. "I need to go." "Sit down," Lena said. Valerie froze. Everyone looked at her. Her face flushed. "I didn't do anything." I knew then, not everything, but enough. "Val," I said, "what did Mom ask you to do?" My sister's mouth twisted. "Don't make me part of your drama." "You're already part of it," Paula said quietly. You came to the daycare with Mrs. Caldwell on April 23rd. Valerie's eyes flashed to my mother. Carla opened the folder again. There's a still? Paula nodded and passed it over. There was my sister in the background, half hidden by the lobby plant, holding her phone up like she was recording. Lena looked at the image, then at Valerie. Were you recording staff refusing to release Lila? Valerie's silence answered. My mother finally snapped. Because they were supposed to give her to us. Marissa was unstable. She was poisoning Lila against us. I was setting boundaries, I said. You changed the locks. Because you used your emergency key while I was at work and rearranged my daughter's bedroom. Mom's eyes hardened. It was filthy. It was laundry. You don't know what a proper home is. And you thought forging my signature would fix that? My father slammed his palm on the table. Enough. Mr. Voss stood. Mr. Caldwell, one more outburst and you will be removed. For the first time in my life, my father sat down because someone told him to. Carla gathered the forged page, the daycare records, and the complaint into one stack. My recommendation, she said, is immediate dismissal of the abandonment allegation, a safety plan restricting unsupervised contact with the maternal grandparents pending investigation, and referral of the forged document to law enforcement. My mother made a wounded sound. You would take our granddaughter from us? Carla looked at her. No, Mrs. Caldwell. I am ensuring you cannot take her from her mother. I covered my mouth. Not to hide grief, to keep from screaming with relief. Then Lena touched the yellow, sticky note still attached to Paula's folder. There's one more item, she said. Ms. Whitaker, what is this signed note? Paula peeled the sticky note from the folder and slid it across. It was small, ordinary, yellow paper, black ink. But my mother's handwriting was unmistakable. Please do not tell Marissa I came by. She gets upset when she thinks I'm interfering. I'm only trying to document concerns for Lila's protection. Joanne Caldwell. For a long second, nobody spoke. That note did what 43 check-ins could not. It showed intent, not worry, not confusion, a plan. My mother reached for it, but Lena pulled it back. No, Lena said. This stays in evidence. Mom looked at me then, and for one flicker of a second, I saw panic replace righteousness. Marissa, she whispered, I'm your mother. I thought of Lila asking if Grandma was still mad. I thought of the pink bedroom, the forged signature, the calls I never received, all the years I had mistaken control for love because it wore my mother's face. No, I said quietly. You're Lila's grandmother, and you forgot that was a privilege. The abandonment allegation was dismissed that afternoon. CPS opened a separate investigation into my parents' report and the forged document. The judge issued an order, no contact with Lila except through a supervised agency, and only if I agreed. I didn't agree, not then. Outside the building, Paula hugged me hard enough to make my ribs ache. She's safe, she said. For the first time all day, I believed it. When I picked Lila up, she ran to me in her light-up sneakers, Pancake the fox tucked under one arm. Mommy, are the big feelings done? She asked. I crouched and pressed my forehead to hers. Some of them, I said, but the important ones are staying. 6 months later, we lived in a smaller apartment with better locks and a balcony full of basil Lila watered too much. I changed her emergency contacts. I changed my phone number. I changed daycare passwords, bank passwords, and the part of myself that apologized for protecting my own peace. Valerie sent one text. I didn't think Mom would take it that far. I didn't answer. My father left voicemails from unknown numbers until Lena sent one more letter. My mother mailed birthday cards with no return address. I kept them unopened in a box for my attorney, not my daughter. People asked if I felt guilty. Sometimes I did. Healing doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like silence after years of noise, and you don't know what to do without someone telling you you're wrong. But Lila stopped asking if Grandma was mad. She started asking if we could have pancakes for dinner, if Clouds got tired, if Pancake the Fox needed a dentist because his smile was suspicious. By the following spring, her daycare held a family picnic. I sat on a blanket while Lila ran across the grass with her purple bow bouncing behind her. At pickup that day, the tablet beeped when I signed her out. Marissa Caldwell, 4:58 p.m. Lila grabbed my hand, warm and sticky from a melted popsicle, and swung it proudly between us. For once, I didn't need a record to prove I had shown up, but I was grateful one existed. If you were in my place, would you ever let my parents back into Lila's life? If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. And if you want more stories like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.